As we grow older, our energy becomes increasingly precious. Yet sometimes the people around us, the ones we once believed would be our pillars of support, can transform into heavy burdens. You may have found yourself asking, why do certain relationships drain my energy instead of uplifting me? This is a common and painful experience for many over 60. In this exploration, we dive deep into the kinds of people you should avoid in your later years, those whose constant negativity and controlling behavior can sap your vitality, leaving you stressed, exhausted, and unhappy. By understanding these dynamics, you can protect your energy, safeguard your happiness, and ensure that your remaining years are filled with joy, peace, and freedom. The toll on emotional well-being. This constant exposure to negativity is more than just annoying, it's dangerous. Toxic complaining can function like a virus, infecting your thoughts and perceptions. When you are continually surrounded by individuals who view life through a lens of despair and blame, it becomes all too easy to start seeing the world the same way. Instead of opportunities, you begin to notice obstacles. Instead of love, you sense only the coldness of indifference. The emotional drain is cumulative. Each day spent listening to endless complaints leaves you a little more exhausted, a little less hopeful, and increasingly skeptical of the potential for joy in your own life. A real-life example. Maria's story. Consider the story of Maria, a devoted mother in her 60s. Maria once took great pride in being the go-to person for her family. Her daughter, whom she loved dearly, would call on her for support at every turn. Initially, Maria was more than happy to listen and offer advice. But as time passed, her daughter's problems began to dominate every conversation. Whether it was frustrations about a difficult boss, heartaches over a failing relationship, or anxieties about everyday challenges, the deluge of complaints became overwhelming. Maria found that her home, once a sanctuary of calm, had turned into a storm of emotional turmoil. Slowly, she began to lose herself, her own needs and desires buried beneath the weight of her daughter's constant negativity. Maria's story is a vivid example of how energy vampires can infiltrate your life, blurring the lines between your identity and the burdens of those around you. The insidious nature of emotional drain. Energy vampires are particularly dangerous because they often don't even realize they are draining you. Their behavior isn't marked by malicious intent. It's born out of their own unresolved issues. They use your kindness and willingness to help as a crutch, leaning on you until you feel as though your emotional energy has been completely exhausted. Over time, this continuous drain can leave you feeling empty, disoriented, and disconnected from your own life. The more you give without replenishing your own reserves, the less energy you have left to care for yourself, to pursue your passions, or even to simply enjoy the present moment. The emotional impact of control. The constant need for control by others is not just irritating, it can be deeply demoralizing. When someone continually tells you how to live your life, it feels as though they are erasing your individuality and disregarding your personal experiences. This type of behavior can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and even sadness. It creates a dynamic where you are no longer the master of your own destiny, but rather a puppet dancing to someone else's tune. The emotional toll of this loss of independence is significant, especially as you age and long for a life where you can make decisions freely without constant interference. Embracing the Buddhist perspective. One philosophy that can be particularly helpful in this process is Buddhism, which teaches that each individual is responsible for their own karma. This means that while you can offer support, you are not obligated to carry the emotional burdens of others. When you constantly try to fix someone else's problems, you not only prevent them from learning their own lessons, but you also absorb their negativity into your own life. Recognize that your happiness is your responsibility. By focusing on your own well-being, You empower yourself to live a life filled with joy and peace, rather than being weighed down by the struggles of those around you. Fostering self-care and emotional resilience. In addition to setting boundaries with toxic individuals, focus on cultivating your own emotional resilience. Engage in practices that nourish your soul, be it meditation, journaling, or spending time in nature. Self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity, especially as you age. When you invest in yourself, you build a reservoir of strength that allows you to face life's challenges with grace and confidence. Remember, every moment you spend caring for yourself is an investment in a future where you are stronger, happier, and more capable of living life on your terms. The Buddhist wisdom of personal responsibility. An enlightening perspective comes from Buddhism, which teaches that each individual is responsible for their own karma. In practical terms, this means that while you can offer support, you are not responsible for carrying the emotional burdens of others. When you consistently step in to fix other people's problems, you not only hinder their personal growth, but also absorb their negativity. This can drain you emotionally, leaving little room for your own happiness. By embracing this philosophy, you learn to release the need to fix everyone else's issues. Instead, you focus on nurturing your own well-being. Recognize that your happiness is your responsibility alone. By taking ownership of your energy and emotional health, you empower yourself to live a life free from the weight of others' unresolved challenges. Reflection and call to action. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Who are the people that fill your days with joy, and who are the ones that leave you feeling depleted? It might be time to reevaluate your relationships and decide where to invest your precious energy. Ask yourself, are you giving too much of yourself to those who drain you? Are you sacrificing your happiness for the sake of maintaining connections that no longer serve you? The answer to these questions can pave the way for a more fulfilling future. Imagine a life where you are surrounded by supportive, uplifting people, where each interaction leaves you feeling energized and valued. Visualize the freedom of living on your own terms, with boundaries that protect your well-being and a network of relationships that nurture your soul. This is your moment to reclaim your energy. It's never too late to make empowered choices, to set healthy boundaries, and to ensure that your remaining years are spent in a way that honors your peace and joy. Embrace the reality that your energy is finite, and that protecting it is the key to living a vibrant and fulfilling life. The burden of living with adult children, a challenge for the elderly. As we grow older, the roles we play in the lives of others tend to shift. We've spent decades caring for our families, raising our children, and doing everything in our power to ensure that their futures are as bright as possible. We've endured sleepless nights, financial struggles, emotional tolls, and a never-ending list of sacrifices, all with the hope that one day our children would grow up, become independent, and lead fulfilling lives of their own. But as time passes, we may find ourselves facing a rather unexpected and heartbreaking reality. Despite all that we've given, our adult children can still demand more from us in ways that feel overwhelming, frustrating, and even draining. At first, the requests seem harmless enough. They may ask for a bit of assistance. Could you cook me something to eat? I'm a little short on money this month. Do you mind helping me out? Or maybe it's the emotional tug. How can you leave me like this? You're my mom, dad. You can't say no. These small demands can seem like the normal ebb and flow of family life, but if allowed to continue, they begin to build up, creating an emotional weight that begins to hold us back from living our own lives. In a perfect world, children grow up, move out, and start families of their own, flourishing as independent adults. But in reality, this process can be slow, and in many cases, never fully realized. The bitter truth is that some children, even as they reach their 30s or 40s, continue to treat their parents as if they were still infants in need of constant nurturing and support. And while there's no denying the love and care that parents feel for their children, this behavior can often feel like an emotional anchor, holding us back from pursuing our own dreams, passions, and well-being. The struggle of constant caregiving. It's a heartbreaking reality that many over the age of 60 are not just dealing with the natural aging process and the challenges of maintaining their health, but they're also still burdened with the responsibility of caregiving for adult children who have yet to fully break free from the dependency they were raised with. The role of the parent doesn't simply fade away when children become adults. Instead, it often intensifies in unexpected ways. There's the constant emotional labor of worrying about their well-being, managing their issues, and trying to figure out how to help them through life's many struggles. Perhaps you've been there. Your grown child turns to you for emotional support during a difficult time, seeking solace from the complexities of adulthood. They might confide in you about their job troubles, relationship issues, or financial stress. And although you want to be there for them, you're left feeling drained. You may have spent hours listening to their worries, offering advice, and providing a shoulder to cry on, only to find yourself exhausted and emotionally depleted by the end of it. The cycle repeats, and you realize that these burdens are no longer just temporary challenges. They're slowly becoming a permanent part of your life. Emotional manipulation and guilt. The hardest part of this dynamic, however, is that these requests and behaviors often come wrapped in the guise of love. Parents can feel an overwhelming sense of obligation to help, because after all, these are their children, the very people they raised and sacrificed for. But over time, this can lead to a dangerous pattern: the manipulation of emotions, the use of guilt, and the reinforcement of dependency. Adult children may guilt-trip their parents into giving, reminding them of the sacrifices they made, and twisting the situation to make the parent feel as though they have no choice but to comply. Mom, you've always been there for me. How can you say no? I need your help now more than ever. Don't leave me hanging. The pull of parental love is strong, and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that saying no would mean rejecting your child or not fulfilling your parental duties. But in truth, this constant giving and sacrificing only serves to perpetuate their dependence and limit their own growth. It's a silent agreement that often goes unspoken. By continuing to help them in every way, parents can unintentionally hold their children back from taking responsibility for their own lives. This emotional manipulation can lead to an unspoken resentment, not only from the parent, but also from the child. The parent begins to feel overwhelmed, suffocated by the weight of these ongoing demands, while the child may start to resent their own inability to break free and lead an independent life. It's a cycle that is not healthy for anyone involved, but it can be incredibly hard to break, especially when the love for your children clouds your judgment and makes it difficult to see how damaging the situation has become. The role of attachment in Buddhist philosophy. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a concept known as attachment. It refers to the emotional bond that we form with people, things, and roles, and how these attachments can create suffering in our lives. As parents, we often become attached to the role we play in our children's lives. We see ourselves as caretakers, protectors, and providers, and this role becomes so ingrained in our identity that we lose sight of who we are as individuals. The problem arises when we become so consumed by our role as parents that we forget to care for ourselves. This attachment to our roles can also be harmful when it prevents us from seeing the bigger picture, that we have the right to live for ourselves too. The concept of non-attachment in Buddhism teaches us that we should not hold on to anything so tightly that it prevents us from experiencing the fullness of life. This includes our roles as parents. It's essential to recognize when we are sacrificing too much for others, especially when it comes at the expense of our own well-being. The breaking point. There comes a time when every parent must face the painful truth. By constantly enabling our adult children's dependence on us, we are not only robbing them of the opportunity to grow, but also robbing ourselves of the life we deserve to live. The truth hits like a ton of bricks when we realize that, in our efforts to care for others, we have neglected our own health, happiness, and dreams. We've spent so much time looking after everyone else that we've forgotten to look after ourselves. This is exactly what happened to a woman named Natalia, a mother in her 60s, who had spent her entire life sacrificing for her son. Despite being in her 60s, she was still emotionally and financially supporting him, even though he was in his 40s. He lived in her home rent-free, didn't contribute to household expenses, and relied on her for everything, from meals to money. She gave him everything she could, thinking she was being a good mother. However, everything changed when Natalia fell ill and needed medical treatment in another city. Her son didn't even offer to help, let alone take care of her home while she was gone. It was in that moment that Natalia realized the harsh reality. She had spent years enabling his dependence, and in doing so, she had sacrificed her own life. It was a painful revelation for Natalia, but it was the catalyst she needed to break free from the cycle of enabling her son. She realized that by continuously giving without receiving anything in return, she was not only compromising her own happiness, but also preventing her son from learning to stand on his own 2 feet. This moment of clarity allowed her to set boundaries and regain control over her own life. She learned that she deserved more than being the person to solve everyone else's problems at the cost of her own peace. The fear of letting go, the struggle of parental expectations. The relationship between parents and children, particularly as the children grow into adulthood, is a delicate one. The natural progression is for children to become independent and self-sufficient. But often, parents find it difficult to fully release their children from their emotional grasp. This is particularly true when parents enter their later years, where vulnerability may make them more susceptible to falling into the trap of caretaking and enabling behaviors that limit their own happiness. Take, for instance, the story of a woman I once knew. She had spent most of her life caring for her children, always putting their needs above her own. She dreamed of traveling, creating memories with friends, and seeing the world, simple desires that brought her joy. But when she shared these dreams with her son, he expressed concern. He would say, "Mom, it's not safe for you. You might fall, you might get sick, and what will I do then?" His fears were rooted in his own anxieties, but she internalized them, letting them dictate her choices. This fear-based concern slowly chipped away at her independence and aspirations, leaving her stagnant and missing out on the richness of life that still awaited her. The lesson here is clear. We must take ownership of our own happiness and not let the fear of others dictate our decisions, especially when they come from a place of their own unresolved fears. Breaking free. How to set boundaries with loved ones. As we age, our priorities should shift from fulfilling the expectations of others to focusing on our own desires and needs. Setting boundaries, especially with adult children who may still rely on us for emotional or financial support, is not a betrayal. It's an act of self-preservation. We often feel torn between the love we have for our children and the obligation to take care of ourselves. But the truth is that by constantly rescuing our adult children, we are not helping them. We're stunting their growth and robbing ourselves of the chance to truly live our own lives. Setting boundaries can be difficult, especially when emotions run high, but it's necessary to protect our peace of mind. We are not obligated to be their lifelong caregivers or emotional crutches. We have earned the right to live life on our own terms. This means no longer tolerating behavior that undermines our autonomy or contributes to our emotional and physical exhaustion. It's important to recognize that as parents, our role isn't to live our children's lives for them or to bear the weight of their unresolved issues. We can love them, guide them, and offer support when needed, but we must also allow them to stand on their own 2 feet. This is not just about us. It's about empowering them to take responsibility for their own lives, their happiness, and their future. The subtle nature of control. Emotional manipulation can take many forms, but often it comes disguised as concern or love. The person who constantly checks on you, questions your actions, or criticizes your choices might make it seem as though they care deeply for you. However, this concern is more about maintaining control than ensuring your well-being. It's an insidious shift, and it can happen gradually over time. In many cases, older individuals who experience this manipulation don't recognize the signs until it's too late. They might begin to feel guilty for wanting to spend time with their own friends or pursue their hobbies. This is not love. It is control, and it should not be tolerated. At this stage in life, the last thing anyone wants is to feel trapped in a relationship that takes away their freedom and autonomy. You have the right to live life on your terms, to be your own person, and to enjoy your golden years without feeling like someone else is making the decisions for you. The need for space and autonomy. You may encounter other individuals who assume that since you are retired or no longer have the same obligations as you did in your younger years, your time is essentially at their disposal. They may request favors, make demands, or assume that you have nothing better to do than help them with their errands. While it's not uncommon for older individuals to be asked to lend a hand, whether it's by family members or friends, it's essential to remember that your time is still valuable and it should be spent wisely. Many people in their 60s or older have worked their entire lives, often sacrificing their own dreams and desires to care for others. Now, it's time to enjoy the fruits of that labor. You deserve time to engage in your passions, to try new things, to travel, or to simply relax without constantly being asked to do things for others. When others fail to respect your time, it can leave you feeling drained and disillusioned. This is why setting boundaries is so important. The fear of aging and the people who perpetuate it. Another challenge that arises in later life is the fear of aging, both within oneself and in the people around you. There are some individuals who see aging as a death sentence, as a reason to stop pursuing goals, to retreat from life's adventures. They may start to push their limitations on you, often out of fear or a lack of understanding. These are the people who might say, "You're getting too old for that," or "You should just take it easy now, it's time to slow down." This attitude is incredibly limiting. It denies the very real possibility that life can be just as fulfilling and vibrant in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s as it was in your younger years. The beauty of aging lies in the wisdom you've gained, the freedom to explore new interests, and the ability to live authentically. These are the things that should be celebrated, not feared. Yet there are always those who will try to impose their own limitations onto you, often from a place of ignorance or fear of their own aging process. Breaking free from the fear of aging. The most empowering thing you can do is to surround yourself with people who encourage growth, adventure, and fulfillment at every age. When you are supported by individuals who believe in your potential, who encourage you to chase your dreams and follow your passions, something incredible happens. You begin to see life differently. You start to believe that age is not a limitation but an opportunity, a chance to pursue what you've always wanted to do. Think about the countless individuals who have proven that age is just a number. The iconic examples of people like Colonel Sanders, who founded KFC in his 60s, or Grandma Moses, who started her painting career in her 70s, prove that starting something new in later life is not only possible but can lead to incredible success. These individuals didn't let age define them or limit their potential. Instead, they used their years of experience and wisdom to forge new paths, and you can do the same. Embracing change. The world is full of possibilities. It's common to encounter those who will tell you, "You're too old to start something new." These remarks may come from a place of concern, but they are steeped in a mindset that seeks to impose limitations. The idea that you should stop pursuing new goals, interests, and relationships simply because of age is one of the most damaging myths we face in our society. People who make such comments fail to recognize that age is just a number. Our ability to learn, grow, and create doesn't diminish simply because the calendar says we've reached a certain age. Think about the incredible achievements of individuals who embarked on new careers, new ventures, or new hobbies later in life. For example, Colonel Sanders didn't found KFC until he was in his 60s, and Grandma Moses didn't start painting until her 70s. These individuals are living proof that age doesn't limit your potential. In fact, many of the world's greatest achievements were accomplished by people later in life. These individuals didn't let the world's expectations of age limit their goals, and neither should you. The time to live for yourself is now. The bottom line is simple. After 60, you owe no one an explanation. You owe no one your time, energy, or compliance with their expectations. This is your time. Live it as you choose. And when people try to impose their fears and limitations on you, let them go. Your dreams, your goals, and your happiness are your responsibility. Do not let anyone's doubts or fears stand in the way of your freedom. So, ask yourself today, are you ready to take the leap? Are you ready to stop living for everyone else and finally start living for yourself? Your future is full of possibility, and it's never too late to make it your own.